You know what we talk about these races, whether the gubernatorial contests, I know Florida has a big one, McCollum getting challenged by Rick Scott for that Republican nomination, and all across the country, you see a shift going on. I think you see a tide against the old way, and I say the old kind of backslapping ways of Washington, where we the people get lectured to.
Right, by
our ideas,
our enlightened leaders.
Our ideas get dismissed. Our thoughts are kind of disregarded. And I say to folks, well, look, think about for whom you're going to vote in November, because that vote might mean that we have Speaker Pelosi for another couple of years,
right,
or Majority Leader Reid, because you keep those Democrats in power. Charlie Crist is going to vote for whom? For Majority Leader.
He's going to vote for Harry Reid.
Harry Reid.
Right.
So a vote for Crist is a vote for Harry Reid. Okay, that's just a fact.
Well, here's what's happening. You've got guys that are in charge here now, and gals that are in charge here in Washington, D.C., that think they've got it pretty good, and they want to keep it that way. And so early on in this race, let's remember, early on in this race, my own party establishment didn't help me.
They didn't want you.
They raised millions of dollars for Charlie Crist, and that money's still sitting.
And I was blasting them. I love the fact that we were the first to come out for you.
Well, we've proven to them that he was what we said he was when we first got in this race. But that being said, all that money that they raised for him is still sitting in his bank account, and he plans to use it.
And he just said, tough noogies.
Yeah, he's not giving the money back. So he's got all that establishment money sitting there, and now he's going to have it both ways. He's going to have Democrat establishment money too,
Republican money, Democrat support, and
But what it ultimately comes down to is here's the bottom line. Okay, Washington D.C. is full of people, quite frankly, in both parties to some extent, but largely in both parties, that are willing to go along to get along, that have been for too long kind of said, look, our job here is to get reelected. It's not to deal with the issues that face our country, and I believe that my opponents will come up here and be a part of that. It's the reason why I ran. I mean, someone's got to face these issues and talk about them and do something about them. And the people that are here now are not. And I think both parties are guilty of that, although what this administration and this Congress have done over the last 18 months is unprecedented. And that's what this race is about. If you want to send people that are going to come up here and continue to act the way people up here act, then vote for my opponents.
The elites versus America. It's the tyranny of the elites. I don't mean elite meaning you're elite doesn't mean you're just well-educated. No, elitist. It's an elitist viewpoint that people, they're sick to death of, Marco.
Well, part of it is elitist, but I tell you, part of it is just people that like being in politics. They just like it. They like being a senator. They like being a congressman. It's
an arrogance of power.
And so to them, being up here is about being reelected. And so they just want to be on the 51% side of every issue. And, their positions will change if the polls change. And I think you're seeing that in Florida. I think you unfortunately have seen that around the country. We've got too much of that already. It's why our debt is now $13 trillion. It's why the national security threats we face are extraordinary. It's why America has not moved more aggressively towards energy independence, which is an issue that threatens our national security and our economic vitality. And all of these things are on the table and need to be resolved.
What does America mean to you?
It's the greatest society in all of human history. We're the freest, most prosperous people ever. That didn't happen automatically. We got to keep that happened because people sacrificed. They made tough choices.
I can talk about from the heart, though, from your own experience, going back to your childhood.
Well, just think about this.
Think of passion. I want the passionate Marco Rubio response there. I don't want the America's great America. Yeah, okay, that's the talk. I want your family growing up.
Well, think about it this way. I'm a generation removed from a very different life, okay? The society my parents were born into, was a place where who you were going to be and what you were going to be able to accomplish was determined before you were even born. If you weren't born to the right family, if you didn't run in the right social circles, there's only so far you could go. I grew up in a very different place, and my parents made sure I understood that from a very young age. They reminded me over and over again that I would have chances that they didn't, that I would have opportunities they did not. And I owe that to God. I owe that to my parents' sacrifices. But I owe that to the United States and to this extraordinary place that was built by people, generation after generation of Americans who did what they had to do during their time to ensure that the next generation was better off. And now it is our turn. And the last thing we can afford is to send people to Washington, or for that matter, to state capitals that are there to prolong their political careers, as opposed to face the issues that threaten our exceptionalism.
I think we often don't step back in the mad rush, right, to ask that question about what is it? That's what this is all about. Yeah, what are we doing here? Why are we getting up every day? What's the point? I mean, just to be elected, or to have a big radio show, or to be on television? I think we have to get to that moment, right?
I think your question goes to what's at stake. I mean, what's all the noise about? At the end of the day, what it's about is who do we want to be as a country going forward? Do we want to continue to be exceptional, or do we want to become like everybody else? And if we want to become like everybody else, then we're on the right track for that. But if we want to continue to be exceptional, we're going to have to make some changes. And that's going to require sending people that are here to do something, not be somebody.
Now, I want to talk about this story that just broke overnight about the federal government halting the sand berm dredging in the Gulf, and Billy Nungesser's pleading with President Obama to allow the work to continue, and apparently the federal government says no, it's shutting down the dredging that was being done to create these protective sand berms in the Gulf of Mexico. What's your reaction to that? This man who wants to be the senator from Florida.
Well, it's part of the same problem that we talked about initially, and that is a federal government that's broken. I mean, these guys do not have a system in place to deal with an issue of this magnitude in an effective way. The red tape and the bureaucracy, you would think that if anything would cause you to waive that, it would be an emergency like this, and they don't. To them, their regulations and their existence as a regulatory agency is more important than actually dealing with solutions to this problem. And not only is the federal government not doing anything about it, they now appear to be getting in the way of state governments that are trying to do something about it, that have found solutions and have taken it upon themselves to do some of these things. And that's evidence of that. This is one example of why the response to this oil spill has been a disaster upon a disaster. It is almost big as been, the response is as big a disaster as the oil spill itself.
What do you think of the McChrystal? He apparently had a, 3-minute meeting with the president, real quick meeting, in and out. Obviously, the interview in the Rolling Stone.
Well, first of all, I don't think it was very smart to have an anti-war magazine and an anti-war reporter track you for a few days, and I think there was a bad use of judgment there by the general, who's, by all accounts, really a military genius, was a hero and done a great job in Iraq. That being said, I mean, it speaks to a bigger issue, and that is that this war effort is clearly dysfunctional. Like many things that are happening through this administration, you have bickering internally that was exposed during that so-called review process. It was exacerbated by the president's speech, where he announced a timetable for retreat. Basically, we're coming in, but we're leaving by August of 2011. That alone undermined the effort. So I think you've got systemic problems in there that this article just kind of lifted the veil on it. So the general shouldn't have done that. We'll see what happens in regards to that. But that being said, the bigger problem here is not some ill-advised words by the general. The bigger problem is a dysfunctional war effort in a very important place for America to succeed.
So I think, Marco, we are going to try to put something together on Saturday, the 24th of July.
Yeah,
we're trying to. Yeah, we're
going to do that.
We are going. I love that.
That's right.
We are going to do that. So in Orlando, we're figuring out the details right now. We like doing things last minute here on the Laura Ingraham Show. It's always last minute, but we're looking forward to seeing as many supporters of yours as possible. We're going to be doing something for the Obama Diaries and your campaign, and I think we can get a huge crowd of people. And we are going to take that Orlando by storm. You and I together.
That'll
okay?
be fun.
So I'm really looking forward to it. It's great to see you. And look, we always knew this thing was going to tighten up. This is going to be a fight to the finish. It's a different campaign
now. It's a three-way race in a general.
It's a different campaign. Charlie Crist was always the establishment's favorite, and it just shows you the elites on the left or the right, they like Crist for a reason. He was a go along, get along type, and now they're gonna continue to support him. The advantage you have is that you have the people. Okay, you have common sense, you have the people, you have that rebel spirit. Keep that going, because that's going to propel you to victory.
Yeah, we will.